Philadelphia lost to the Nets last night. No Joel Embiid, no Maxey. And this was the surprising part. Just 2 points from Paul George.
If you're on the floor and you're playing, damn it, you got to produce. And I'm not saying he should have went out there and had 40, but 2 points is unacceptable. Paul George, you have to elevate your game. The Clippers let you walk.
Paul George's contract and Joel Embiid's contract, that's $500 million between the two of them. Those are not tradable contracts right now. They have to make the most of these players. They have to make it better. And even if they have some injuries, even if there's times when Embiid is out or Paul George is dealing with nagging things, they're supposed to be redundant. The concept of this trio was that they could be redundant together so that if one was out, they could carry the other. And that has simply not happened.
All right, we got to talk about it. Is Paul George still that dude, or are we watching his decline in real time? The game against the Nets was ugly. No Tyrese Maxey, no Joel Embiid. This is PG's moment to step up, to shine, to prove he can carry the Sixers. And what happened? 2 points. My man's literally had 2 points. In 37 minutes, PG put up the worst performances of his career, shooting 1 for 7 from the field, 6 rebounds, and having 4 assists in a loss. And this wasn't just a bad night, it was a statement. Because let's be real, this is becoming a trend. Philly brought him in to be the missing piece, the guy who could finally help Embiid and Maxey bring a championship to the city. But instead, we're getting inconsistency. Nights where he just disappeared where the Sixers needed him the most. And it's crazy to even think that after a few months, Sixers fans are reacting this badly to a player they literally just signed in the offseason. So let's break it all down. Listen. If we're talking about the biggest NBA disasters this season, the Philadelphia 76ers are front and center. I'm not even trying to be disrespectful, I'm just stating facts. Think about it. They went all in this past season, pulled off a surprise move for Paul George, and still ended up barely scraping above the bottom of the standings. We all know the East is top heavy. Teams like the Celtics, the Bucks, or even the Cavs. But what about Philly? This was supposed to be the year for them. But so far it's been nothing but missed expectations and ugly headlines. Before the season started, I remember dudes were so sold on Joel Embiid and Paul George. People were talking like, oh, they're gonna dominate together, they're gonna be unstoppable in the half court, nobody can guard these two, it's a wrap. All that. The hype was so serious that analysts on ESPN and The Athletic were calling the Sixers a dark horse favorite to make the finals. Some even had them beating Boston in a 7-game series if that ever happened. But where are they now? We're almost 2/3 into the season, and Sixers have the 7th worst record in the league. They're nowhere near the top of the East. In fact, look at the standings and you'll see them chilling next to teams like Chicago and Brooklyn. Teams that are either trying to tank or who just don't have the talent that the Sixers do. That's not the type of company that supposed contenders wants to keep around. Now let's get to Joel Embiid and his knee situation. This part is critical. You think by this time in his career, the Sixers would have a firm grasp of who he is and how to manage his injury. But apparently not. According to ESPN's recent in-game broadcast, there's a growing concern that Embiid needs another surgery to fix the knee he's been dealing with for over a year. And here's the thing. It's not like he woke up one day and was like, oh, my knee magically got worse. He played in the Olympics this past summer for Team USA, balled out, well, he didn't really ball out, went out and won a gold medal, so salute to him for that. But you know how these things go. Extra mileage on an already iffy knee can cause bigger problems down the line. Philly wasn't thrilled about him playing, but Embiid was determined, so he went out there. Now he's back in the States, and the knee's not right. It's looking more like more time on the bench is inevitable. Let's go back to Mr. Podcast B. When the trade went down, I'll admit, I was on Twitter like, okay, Philly really might do something. The idea of PG8 next to Embiid was kind of scary. You literally have two-way guys who can get a bucket and get stops against any matchup. But in reality, PG has one of the worst statistical seasons in almost a decade. He's putting up mediocre shooting splits, has been in and out the lineup, and generally looks a step slower than the All-NBA version we remember. Some people blame Nick Nurse's system. Others say it's just PG's age showing. Either way, it's nowhere enough to carry Philly while Embiid struggles with his health. Now let's talk money, because everything in the NBA eventually comes back to the bag. Right after the Olympics, the Sixers 3-year, $193 million extension. That means they're paying him superstar money through 2029. Let that sink in. By 2029, we're probably going to see some of the craziest new superstars running throughout the league. And Embiid will be well into his mid-30s with a shaky knee. Sure, if you're Philly's front office, you had to lock down your MVP centerpiece. Nobody's going to argue that Embiid isn't a special talent. But it's a huge gamble, especially when you looked up how banged up he's been. Right now, the man can barely stay on the floor, and when he does, he's not as explosive as last year. So how's he going to look in 2, 3, or 4 seasons from now? It's no regret that New York always had eyes for Joel Embiid. They ended up making a big move for Karl-Anthony Towns, but rumor has it they would have gave up a lot more for Embiid if the Sixers had put him on the market. Philly refused to even entertain it, partly because they see Embiid as the face of the franchise and partly because they just extended him. Why sign him long term only to flip him? But here's the kicker. If you're another NBA team, do you really want a supermax 30-year-old center who might need knee surgery every other season? His trade value is nowhere near what it was a year or 2 ago. And that's not even factoring in the new CBA rules. Teams are way more cautious about strapping themselves with huge contracts, especially for older players with injury histories. So what's Philly's big move? Let's frame it like this. 1. Shut it down. Sit Embiid and PG. Let Embiid get the surgery. Let PG fully rest whatever's bothering him this season and tank. I know. Nobody wants to say the word tank. But if you end up finishing in the bottom 6, you keep your first round pick, especially if it's protected from going to OKC. Draft the top rookie in this loaded draft. Now next year you come back with a hopefully healthy Embiid, a hopefully rejuvenated Paul George, and a lottery level rookie with some fresh legs. That's not half bad. Or you could just go all in. Keep Embiid and keep PG in the lineup, chase a playing spot, maybe snag the 8th seed. You'll probably get slapped by the Bucks or the Celtics in the first round. End result, no deep run, no chance at a top draft pick, and you're stuck with the same issues going into the summer. It's a tough spot because Daryl Morey, the GM, and Nick Nurse, the coach, have their own agendas, obviously. They don't want to be the guys who wave the white flag with 20 to 30 games left. That's basically announcing, hey, we're giving up, fans hate it, the media kills you for it, and your job security gets real shaky. But if you push these guys, especially Embiid, there's a real risk he gets hurt worse. And then you're cooked for next season too. If they try to move Embiid or PG in the offseason for a fresh start, what kind of package can they realistically get? Look at how the market's shifted. Dame got traded for far less than people expected. Bradley Beal basically went to Phoenix for some role players and future picks. And most recently, Luka was shipped out of Dallas because they didn't want to pay him the Supermax. Teams just aren't giving up everything for an expensive injury-prone star anymore. This isn't 2019. So Philly might look at trade offers for Embiid or PG this summer and say, nah, that's not enough. The result? They're stuck in limbo unless they choose a direction, to fully commit or fully rebuild. At the end of the day, the Sixers have 2 clear paths, and neither is pretty, but one actually might save them. Like we talked about, Path A, short-term surrender, long-term gain. Sacrifice this season, shut Embiid down, shut Paul George down, secure a high lottery draft pick that's top 6 protected from OKC, use your next training camp and preseason to get all these dudes healthy, and hopefully come back next year ready to compete for real. Or Path B, which is like the desperate playoff push. Keep everyone on the court, fight tooth and nail for a playing seed, maybe Embiid and PG have some late success this season, squeak into the playoffs, and get dusted in the first round. Then you lose your pick, you waste another year on those aging knees, and you're no closer to a championship than you were in December. From a pure basketball standpoint, Path A makes way more sense. But from a coaching and front office perspective, short-term tanking might be that essentially you're out of a job next season. That's the crossroad. Do you do what's best for the franchise, or do you do what's best to keep your seat safe for a few more months? Either way, Philly fans deserve better than this. This is the hometown team for me, so I hear it all the time. They've been through a whole trust the process era. They've seen way more front office experiments and big trades than just about any other fan base in the league. Now's the time to pick a lane. Halfway in, halfway out, that's how you stay mediocre forever. Look, if you're a Sixers fan, you're either furious or straight up exhausted right now, and I can't blame you. But keep an eye on what happens in the next few weeks. Will Embiid shut it down for surgery? Will PG come back stronger? Or do the Sixers keep pretending they're one hot streak away from contending with the elite of the East? Because make no mistake, if they don't commit to shutting it down, or at least have some type of real plan, this disaster of a season could stretch all the way into the next few years. And oh my gosh, few years? Embiid's knees could be cooked. Paul George might be a shell of himself, and they'll have wasted a golden opportunity to snag a high draft pick in a loaded class. So the clock is ticking. Philly better decide real quick if they're chasing empty playoff dreams or genuinely trying to salvage the Embiid era for the long haul. At the end of the day, sometimes taking one step back is the only way to leap 2 steps forward. The question is, do the Sixers front office have the cojones to do it?